Part 1, The First Victim, Midnight Strikes. The clock struck midnight. A quiet hum filled the air in Hollow Creek, a town too small for a real police station, but just big enough to harbor secrets. The college dormitories sat silent under a moonless sky, their windows aglow with muted lights. Inside room 217 of Birchwood Hall, Ethan Cole, 21, stared at his laptop screen. His fingers moved fast across the keyboard, tapping out a message to someone he shouldn't be talking to. "Midnight's almost here. You ready to watch it happen again?" The message blinked green as it was delivered. Seconds later, a reply popped up. "It always starts at 12 sharp. We're all cursed now." Ethan scoffed. "Bullshit," he muttered, stretching his arms. The room smelled like burnt coffee and anxiety. His roommate, Mason, was out, likely getting drunk somewhere off campus. That left Ethan alone. Just how he liked it. Or so he thought. As the digital clock on his desk flicked from 11:59 to 12, every light in the room went out. Not just his, the whole dormitory plunged into darkness. "What the hell?" he started to say. Then the screaming began. But it wasn't outside. It was coming from inside the room. 12:03 a.m. Detective Claire Morgan hated being called in the middle of the night. Her phone buzzed furiously on her nightstand, dragging her out of a dream she couldn't remember. She squinted at the screen. Unexplained death. Birchwood Hall, Hollow Creek College. Another prank? She wondered. But the last time she ignored a midnight call, a girl bled out in a bathtub. She didn't want to make that mistake again. By the time she arrived, the sky was bruised with pre-storm tension. Lightning flickered, but no thunder followed. A campus security guard led her up the narrow stairs of Birchwood Hall. Students had gathered in hushed, horrified clumps. Many were crying. One boy was throwing up into a potted plant. Room 217 was taped off. The door hung open. Claire stepped inside. What she saw made her stomach twist. The crime scene. Ethan's body was sprawled on the floor like a rag doll, but there was no visible wound. His eyes were wide open, glassy with terror. His mouth was frozen mid-scream. On the wall above him, someone or something had scrawled a single word in black. Guilty. Claire knelt down beside the body. "No blood, no trauma, no struggle," she murmured. "But he looks like he saw something that ripped his soul in half." The room was cold, unnaturally so. Her breath fogged slightly in front of her face. "What's that?" asked Officer Danvers, pointing to the desk. Claire picked up the charred remains of a cheap digital clock. It had melted in place, stopped at exactly 12:13 a.m. "Electrical fire?" Danvers asked. Claire shook her head. "Too localized. This isn't just a power surge. Something weird happened here." And then she noticed it, etched into the back of the clock with something sharp. "He comes between 12 and 1. 1:04 a.m. By the time the forensics team arrived, Claire had already spoken to 3 students, none of whom had seen or heard anything, until they heard Ethan scream. But all agreed on one detail. The dorm lost power exactly at 12 a.m. When it came back on at 1 a.m., Ethan was already dead. A pattern, maybe? Or maybe this was just a coincidence wrapped in fear. She called in a favor and requested Ethan's digital records, texts, browser history, cloud storage. Something wasn't right. There was a smell to this kind of death, even if it didn't stink. 2:15 a.m. Back at her apartment, Claire poured herself black coffee and opened Ethan's recovered laptop logs. Her eyes narrowed. There was a folder named "Don't Open Before Midnight." Of course, someone had opened it. Probably Ethan. Inside were 3 video files. The first was titled 12 a.m. Ritual, First Recording, Do Not Watch Alone. Claire clicked play. The footage was grainy, shot in what looked like a dorm basement. 5 students stood in a circle around a symbol drawn in chalk. Ethan was among them. They were laughing, reading Latin. Then the laughing stopped. In the video, the room's lights began to flicker. A strange buzzing noise grew louder and louder. At exactly midnight, the camera shook violently. Someone screamed, and the screen cut to black. The last frame before it ended, the same burnt clock with the time frozen at 12:13. Claire sat back, skin crawling. What the hell were you kids playing with? Later that day, the campus was closed for investigation, but rumors spread faster than facts. Students whispered about the demon hour and how Ethan had summoned something. One name kept popping up in the whispers, the Midnight Five. Claire found out that 5 students, including Ethan, had formed a private Discord server 2 months ago. They called it No Sleep Rituals. They shared creepy challenges, summoned ghosts, and most disturbing of all, claimed they were trying to create a real haunting. The server had been wiped clean the morning after Ethan's death, but not before Claire traced one IP address, Mason Ross, Ethan's roommate. She paid him a visit. Interview with Mason. Mason looked like he hadn't slept in days. Pale, twitchy, and reeking of sweat and weed, but his eyes told a different story. Terror. I didn't kill him, Mason said as soon as Claire stepped inside his off-campus apartment. I was out all night. You can check. I was at the Raven's Nest. I already did, Claire replied calmly. You left the bar at 11:47 p.m. Where did you go after? I went home, not to the dorm. I swear, I was too drunk to deal with Ethan's spooky bullshit. Claire watched him carefully. Tell me about the No Sleep Rituals group. Mason flinched. You know about that? Tell me what you did. Mason sank into his couch, rubbing his eyes. It was a game at first. We'd read curses, light candles, say dumb Latin, just for laughs. But then, things started happening. What kind of things? Voices, shadows. We all started having the same nightmare. What nightmare? Mason swallowed hard. A tall figure with no face, standing in the corner, just waiting. Every night, the same dream. It would just point at a clock. Let me guess, Claire said. The clock said 12:13. Mason's eyes widened. How did you know? Midnight again, Claire requested campus access again for the following night. She wanted to be inside Ethan's room at exactly 12 a.m. The school was reluctant. She insisted. At 11:58 p.m., she sat alone in the room, a recorder running and a flashlight in her lap. The digital clock on her phone ticked closer to midnight. 11:59. She gripped the flashlight tighter. 12 a.m. The lights cut out. Cold flooded the room. Her breath misted. Then the whispering started. First behind her ear, then from the closet, then everywhere at once. A low hum filled the air, rising like a chorus of insects. And then silence. 12 flashlight blinked out. Claire screamed. Part 2, the pattern revealed. No one is safe. Claire Morgan's scream echoed through the darkness like a gunshot. But as suddenly as the blackout began, the lights flickered back to life. She stood alone in Ethan's dorm room, heart racing, sweat clinging to her back despite the frigid air. Part 2, the pattern revealed. No one is safe. 12:14 a.m. Claire Morgan's scream echoed through the darkness like a gunshot. But as suddenly as the blackout began, the lights flickered back to life. She stood alone in Ethan's dorm room, heart racing, sweat clinging to her back despite the frigid air. Everything was normal again. But something was different now. She felt it. The silence was not empty. It was watching her. On Ethan's desk, her audio recorder continued running. She picked it up and hit stop, breathing uneven. With shaking hands, she replayed the last minute of recording. A voice whispered clearly into the mic. You saw it. Now you're part of it. Claire backed away slowly. She didn't remember hearing that during the blackout, but it was there, on tape, and it sounded like it was right behind her. 9 a.m., Hollow Creek Police Station. Claire sat in the interrogation room across from Mason Ross, Ethan's former roommate. The kid looked worse than yesterday, as if he hadn't blinked once all night. You're not just in danger, Mason said flatly. You're on the list now. Claire raised an eyebrow. What list? The ritual list, Mason said. Whoever performs it, or even watches it, gets marked. The demon follows the order of the participants. Ethan was first. You watched the video. That makes you next. Why hasn't it killed you then? Claire asked. Mason looked up. Because I ran. I left the circle right before midnight. I didn't say the final words. I wasn't marked. Claire tapped her pen slowly against the table. Let's start over. Tell me exactly what you 5 did that night. Flashback, the ritual. 2 months ago, the group, Ethan, Mason, Leah, Derek, and Sienna, met in the old storage basement beneath the abandoned chemistry building. The goal? Go viral on a horror forum. They downloaded an occult document from the dark web titled The Demon's Hour, an Invitation. It instructed them to form a pentagram, light black candles, and repeat a chant at exactly 12 a.m. He who knows all names, open the door. According to the thread, they had to say the phrase together and stare into a mirror placed at the center of the circle. If done correctly, a visitor would appear and mark them one by one. Ethan pushed everyone to go through with it, even when Mason hesitated. Mason claimed he walked out just seconds before midnight. They all laughed after the chant, Mason said, but then the mirror cracked. Nobody touched it. Then Derek screamed. Derek said he saw something in the mirror, something standing behind them. Then the power went out. They didn't take it seriously, Mason whispered, but it saw us, all of us. Through 3 p.m., back to campus, Claire tracked down Leah Patel, now a nervous wreck staying in her car just off campus. When she opened the door, Claire saw bruises under her eyes, signs of extreme sleep deprivation. I haven't slept in 4 days, Leah said, lighting a cigarette with shaking fingers. I keep seeing it, even when I'm awake. Seeing what? Leah looked over Claire's shoulder as if expecting something to pounce. The thing from the mirror, tall, shadowy, no face. It just points at the clock. Claire froze. That same time again, she asked. 12:13? Leah nodded slowly. It doesn't kill you all at once. It waits. It wants you to feel it first. Claire glanced at her notes. Derek and Sienna, have you spoken to them? No one has, Leah whispered. Sienna disappeared yesterday. Derek won't answer his phone, but I know they're dead, or soon. Claire stood to leave. Stay in public places. Don't be alone after midnight. It doesn't care, Leah said. Doors, walls, people, nothing stops it. It comes between 12 and 1. Claire turned back. Why did you do the ritual in the first place? Leah exhaled smoke because we didn't believe in evil. Not until we met it. 6:45 p.m., a body in the woods. The emergency call came from a jogger who had found something by the river trail. When Claire arrived, Officer Danvers was already there, his face pale. We found Derek, ma'am. He pointed toward a body under a tarp. Claire pulled it back and saw the same wide, frozen eyes that Ethan had. No wounds, just terror. But something new had appeared, a second word carved into the tree beside the body. 2. Next to it, a burned phone, screen cracked but still flickering on. The last opened file, 12 a.m. ritual, second recording. Claire took it for analysis. This wasn't random, it was a countdown. 10:15 p.m., the clock is ticking. Claire sat in the precinct with the audio tech, Marissa, who isolated the background audio of the second recording. What they heard chilled them both. Underneath the chanting, under the static, a deep growl, low, rhythmic, like breathing. And at the exact moment Derek screamed in the footage, the background noise changed. A second voice joined the chant, saying the words after the group. It was not human. It mimicked you, Claire said. It waited until the ritual was open, then spoke with you. That's when it crossed over. Marissa nodded slowly. The timestamp of Derek's phone shows the last thing it recorded was at 12:13 a.m. Same pattern, same time, same terror. 11 p.m., Claire prepares. She'd seen enough. Claire wasn't a believer in the supernatural, not until now. She had a theory, and it had to be tested. She returned to her apartment, boarded the windows, locked the doors, and set up every camera, light, and recorder she had. She would stay awake, she would face it, and she would find out what it wanted. She wrote a note and left it on her desk in case she didn't survive. Open quote. This isn't random. The demon is bound to the ritual order. Whoever finishes the chant is next. The sequence is a death list. I'm number 3. If you're reading this, it means it's not over. Close 12 a.m., the third hour begins. The lights dimmed. Her apartment groaned like it was alive. The temperature plummeted. Then came the static. Her television turned on by itself, displaying the image of the pentagram. The mirror in her hallway cracked down the middle. Her clock hit 12:13 a.m., and he appeared, tall, faceless, not walking, gliding. He pointed at her and spoke. 3. The lights blew out. Everything went black. Claire didn't scream this time. 1 a.m. aftermath. When the lights returned, Claire was lying on the floor, unconscious but alive. On the wall, burned into the paint, was a new word, 3. She sat up, gasping, pain searing through her temples. She'd survived. But she understood now. This wasn't a killing spree. It was a ritual chain, a demonic contract, and it wouldn't stop until it reached the final participant. She grabbed her phone and called Leah. No answer. Then Mason. No answer. Then finally a voicemail from Sienna arrived. Her voice was frantic. Open quote, I saw him. He's in the mirror. He said my name. He said 4. I'm not going to make it through tonight. Close quote. Claire stared at the phone, heart pounding. This demon had a purpose. It wasn't just killing for fun. It was collecting. 3 a.m. Father Thomas desperate. Claire visited the only person who might understand. Father Thomas, an exorcist who had long been labeled a lunatic by the town. When she told him the full story, he didn't flinch. I've heard of this, he said grimly. An entity from the hour between hours. It feeds on invitation. The ritual didn't summon it. It allowed it to answer. How do we stop it? Claire asked. You don't. Not until the chain is complete. Claire clenched her jaw. So everyone in the ritual has to die? Or, Thomas said, you complete a counter ritual. A sacrifice. Claire looked at him. What kind of sacrifice? Thomas met her eyes. One of you has to offer your soul willingly before midnight. If accepted, the demon stops. But if refused, it finishes the list. And then it starts a new one. Final scene, a choice before dawn. Claire walked out into the early morning haze with a weight in her chest. There were only 2 people left on the demon's list, Sienna and Leah. Unless she could find them in time, one of them would die at midnight. Or she could offer herself instead, gamble that the demon would take her and spare the rest. Either way, time was running out. Part 3, the final hour. Face the demon. The choice detective, Claire Morgan, sat across from Father Thomas, her mind spiraling with impossible thoughts. The demon had claimed 3 lives, Ethan, Derek, and now, just this morning, Leah. Her body was found in a motel bathtub, eyes wide, mouth stretched in a silent scream. No wounds, no blood, only a scorched mirror on the bathroom wall, and one final word etched on the fogged glass, 4. That left only 2. Sienna, the last of the ritual's original participants, and Claire, the outsider who had watched the forbidden footage. But according to Thomas, the demon didn't care who started the ritual. It cared only that the chain was followed. And now, Claire was number 5. Unless, you said a sacrifice, Claire murmured. If I give myself up, willingly, it ends? Thomas nodded. But only if it accepts you. Demons are not gods. They're bound by rules, ancient, cruel, and specific. It must believe you're offering everything. No hesitation. No deception. And if it doesn't believe me? Thomas didn't answer. 3:30 p.m. Preparing for midnight. Claire knew what she had to do. She returned to her apartment, now a ghostly shell marked with soot stains and burnt clock hands drawn onto every wall. She didn't remember doing that, but the demon had a way of leaving fingerprints in the mind. She opened her laptop, pulled up the ritual notes, and began assembling the tools needed for the counter ritual. A mirror, a drop of blood, a black candle, and the original phrase inverted, "He who knows all names, open the door," became, "She who forgets her name, closes the gate." The text burned her eyes as she read it aloud for the first time. Then came a voice behind her. "You're not ready." She spun around. No one there. Only the clock. It was ticking backward. 5:12 p.m. Sienna reappears. Claire's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Open quote. "Detective, Sienna? I saw Leah. She was in the mirror, smiling, but she wasn't Leah. She said, 'I'm next.' Close quote." Claire's grip tightened. "Where are you?" "I don't know. I just kept running. I don't want to die." "Then listen to me carefully," Claire said. "We still have time. We're going to end this. Meet me at my apartment. Bring nothing but yourself." Silence on the line. "Then I don't think it's going to let me leave." The call dropped. 7 p.m. The house shifts. Claire stood in the middle of her living room, ritual circle complete, candles lit, mirror ready. The air was thick and warm now, unlike before. Something was changing. The demon was growing stronger. It knew this was the final hour. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through her apartment. The ceiling above the mirror split open slightly, just enough to reveal a single black eye staring down at her. She didn't scream. Instead, she drew the knife, sliced her palm, and let the blood drip onto the mirror's edge. "I offer myself," she whispered, "freely. End this." The candle flames exploded, dancing sideways. The lights died. Her phone shut off. The mirror shimmered. no longer reflecting her but showing something else. A room, a basement, the same place where the ritual had begun, and standing in the middle of it was herself. 8:13 p.m. The doppelganger, the reflection Claire was watching, looked like her, moved like her, but its eyes were all black. "You are not enough," it said. "You are not on the list. You are an echo." Claire's mouth went dry. "I watched the ritual. I crossed the threshold. I was marked." The doppelganger cocked its head. "You watched, you begged, but you were not chosen." Claire froze. "No," she whispered. "The list is still active. The blood must flow in order. You cannot skip ahead. The chain must close." A cold realization gripped her. The demon wouldn't take her. It wanted Sienna first, and then Claire. If Claire offered herself now, it would mean nothing. She'd miscalculated. 9:44 p.m. Sienna's fate. Her doorbell rang. Claire flinched. She hadn't heard footsteps. Peering through the peephole, she saw Sienna, drenched in rain, eyes wide and terrified. Claire opened the door slowly. "You came." Sienna stepped in and immediately collapsed into Claire's arms. "I don't want to die." "You might not have to," Claire said, "but you have to face it, just for a minute." "No," Sienna whispered, trembling. "You don't understand. I finished the chant. I said the last line. I was the anchor." Claire pulled back. "You were the last one to speak?" Sienna nodded. That changed everything. If Sienna was the anchor, then she was the last target, which meant Claire wasn't next. She was the gatekeeper. 10:27 p.m. The counter ritual begins. Claire and Sienna sat within the chalk circle, mirror between them. Claire read the inverted ritual aloud. Sienna repeated the words. Blood smeared, candles burned. The clock ticked closer. Open quote, "She who forgets her name closes the gate." Close quote. A wind whipped through the apartment, sucking the air from the room. The mirror cracked once, then twice, then shattered. A scream rang out from the shards, but it didn't come from either of them. It came from the demon. 12 a.m. The demon's hour time slowed. Claire looked up. Her walls had vanished. The apartment was gone. She stood in a void of darkness lit only by hundreds of mirrors floating midair. In each reflection, a different version of her screamed silently. Some burned, some decayed, some bleeding. Then she saw him, the demon, tall, black, endless, with the face of every victim stitched together, whispering in unison, "You have broken the line." Claire stepped forward. "Then take me. You want a soul? Take mine. Just end this." The demon reached out, but before its claws could touch her, Sienna screamed behind her and flung a candle into the mirror shards. Every mirror shattered at once. 12:10 a.m., the final break. The clock struck 12:13, and the demon wailed, not in anger, but in fear. The ritual had been reversed, the chain undone. One by one, the names were burned from the demon's mark. Ethan, Derek, Leah, Sienna, until only one name remained. Claire. She braced for the end, but the flames consumed her name too. She wasn't marked anymore. The void began collapsing, the demon howling as it was sucked back into a swirling mirror vortex of ash and blood. Then nothing. Aftermath. Claire awoke on her floor, head aching. The apartment was intact. No symbols, no cold, no broken mirrors. Sienna sat across from her, alive, blinking in confusion. "It's over," Claire said, voice hoarse. Sienna didn't respond. She didn't need to. 1 week later, the college reopened. The deaths were blamed on carbon monoxide, faulty wiring, and mass hysteria. Only Claire knew the truth. Father Thomas vanished without a trace. The original ritual video? Deleted. Claire kept only one item, the scorched clock from Ethan's room. It now sat on her desk, unmoving, until one night it ticked once. She froze the time. The time? Do you want me to now combine part 1, 2, and 3 into a single seamless 9,000-word version so it reads like a complete novel? That would make the tension flow continuously without breaks.